look at how to build a specific type of rule here in Lucid, where we might be looking at trying to basically have the diagram be smart and tell us, hey, you shouldn't be putting this here, or this belongs in a different spot. So basically what we would do here is we would leverage some Lucid chart features, including using container shapes, some formulas, some conditional formatting rules, and finally, a custom shape library. So I'm actually going to go ahead and create a custom shape library first. Lucid offers a ton of shapes. You could do this with any of them. I am going to use it with just a basic block because I'm feeling a little lazy this morning. But I could use, a network infrastructure library. I could use AWS shapes. I could use Cisco. I could use a different custom shape that I've imported, like a Visio stencil. Any of these features would work there. Now, I would create a new library by clicking this plus icon, but I'm just going to use my sort of default shape library that has everything from the North Carolina state flag for some reason to fun trucks. This is where I put everything. I could actually even share this with a team. Maybe I want to let them use it. Maybe I want to let some people edit or share it with others. So I can actually have centrally managed standards here, as well as just kind of creating these shapes. And I can always come in and, if needed, delete or rename the shapes if I wanted to put something else in. So I'm going to check that library over here. And then I'm going to start building my containers and my custom shape. Let's start with the container. So first off, I can just drag out a regular container shape. I don't recommend using swim lanes for this. I would recommend using sort of a regular container. It looks like there is no title, but if you double click, you can type a title. So staging, and maybe we'll call this production, for example. What I then have is I have a container here, and I'm going to add some custom data to this. So I've done this already with one of my other containers. So I added my own properties called ID and type. I have chosen to call these VPCs. So I would add my ID here. Let me just double check. Was it caps? It was. So I'm going to add an ID, and I'll call this one just equal this is what I'm going to put in the value. This is going to do for me is it's actually going to pull the title for me. So whatever I type here is the title. It's actually going to make that the ID of the shape. You also could put something specific in and maybe then insert it here instead. That's going to give me all kinds of broken things. So I'm just going to pull whatever I type here. So if I change this to Hogwarts as my container, then in theory, that will just go ahead and update. But we will leave it as production. All right, so I've created that property. The other one that I'm going to build here is the type. So I'm going to add a type to my container. In this case, we'll call it a VPC. And the reason I'm adding this type is so that I can kind of identify, what is this container supposed to be. The next thing I'm going to do is add a shape here. And so I'm just going to drag out this Terminator shape to represent whatever it is. And I'm going to add something else here. I'm going to add my type, the VPC that it should be in. If the placement is correct, we're actually not going to use that one. We're going to use conditional formatting. That was me building my rule. So we're going to ignore that one. So I just need to add here my type. In this case, I'm going to say it's a router. And for my, it was VPC. So where this should be located, basically, is going to be added there as well. And I'm going to say this one should be in production in this case. Now, I actually didn't have to necessarily fill these in. By the way, I'm going to use that insert text just to put the type here. I didn't have to fill these in. I could actually leave them blank. And I often recommend doing that in order to put in the custom shape. So I'm going to go ahead and save this shape by just dragging and dropping it into my shape library. If I wanted to go rename it, I could do that by editing the library itself. Now, what's nice is every time I then drag out a copy of this shape, it's going to be ready for me to fill in. So this could be, we'll call this, server is going to be this type. And it should be in production. And I can do the same thing for this other one I previously cleared out. So let's also make this a server, and we'll say production. So what I now have are a bunch of shapes, and my custom shape is ready. My containers are on the canvas. I could actually clear this of all shapes except for my containers, and I could even convert this into a template, which would mean I could reuse this over and over again with those shape libraries. But there's one more step that I need before I want to convert that into a template, and that's to actually detect my containment here. So I have a conditional formatting rule, and I'm going to make sure I'm not selecting anything specific. I'm going to create a new rule. And the first thing that I want to do is I only want this to apply to shapes, not to my VPCs or my containers here. So I'm going to put in a formula. and I'm going to say this dot type. And what that is going to say is for the shape that this rule is evaluating, I want to check for the type, and I just want to say it does not equal VPC, and that's a string. So basically I'm saying this should only apply to things that do not have the type of VPC. And you'll notice it highlights everything but the containers. If I were to change, the type of, let me save this rule before I click on something. If I were to change this to literally anything but, I'm going to suddenly get the icon. So this is just sort of saying, okay, apply it to everything except for things that have been given the type value for VPC. All right, next step, I want to add another condition here. And so I want to say and, because I only want to highlight things that highlight both of these things. So the next thing I want to check is if basically the shape is not in the right spot. So I'm going to say equals, and I'm going to say does not contain. And does not contain is going to let me check that something is not in the list. The list I'm going to look for is contained by. That's a formula Lucid has that basically is going to look on each shape and it's going to check if it's inside one of these containers. So I'm going to say does not contain, the list is contained by. And specifically what I care about is on that shape, this dot VPC. Because basically what this formula is going to do, I'm going to hit save again here, is it's going to look at this shape and it's going to say, here's its VPC value. It says staging. And then it's going to check contained by, and it's going to, oops, I could have put the equal sign so I get the list. And in this case, that list is empty. But if I were to put it into, say, production, that list includes production, but it does not include staging. And therefore, my rule triggers and I get that little green icon that I've been building out. So let's finish this out. I have my rule. It's triggering when I want it to. I'm going to change my icon. And I'm going to switch it to any icon I want. I could also do something like a text badge, but I'm just going to choose a little X here. I'm going to update the color to be something I actually want. I can even add a little custom message that says something like placement incorrect, place shape into, and then I can actually use interpolated text here like JavaScript, and I could say this dot VPC, because that is going to VPC, reference for me and show exactly which one I should be putting it in. So what this means is when I'm done, when I hover over that icon, it's going to tell me placement incorrect, place in VPC production, place in shape into staging, whichever thing is kind of applying here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. I could also change the position of that icon if I wanted to. So I could put it on the top right, for example. Just going to leave it where it is. And let's delete my old one. Nope, I didn't want to copy it. I want to delete it. And I can name the rule whatever I want. So something like placement check. And basically, I now have a rule. It's ready to go. I have this set up so I could turn this into a template. I might remove all my shapes here first, unless they're kind of common, because let's delete these out. If I then turn this into a template, my environments are saved, these VPCs. Something that's kind of fun is I could actually even have, production maybe inside of security, or what would probably make more sense is maybe I've got staging and production here, and maybe security is somehow something that can go on both. Security out of the way. Update my Chrome. Put security on top. Oh. And I could do something like this. And then when I start dragging out my shapes, and I start filling this in, so this is going to be type, let's do router, and the VPC should be staging. It's actually going to be in the wrong spot. It's going to tell me that, and I can move it over. And suddenly that icon disappears. If I drag this one out and I say it's a server, and I say the VPC should be secure, I can make sure that I just drag it specifically into security. I might add more complex logic if I wanted to check for multiple spots. So maybe I wanted to have multiple VPCs. I could write a more complex rule that would check for both. But for now, we've just made sort of a simple one here. And for here, it's actually going to tell me that it's wrong because it's not in the security one. But if I change this to say production, because that's where it's supposed to be, oh, I do need to spell it right, then it disappears and everything is working right. So that is one of the ways that you can use Lucid formulas, conditional formatting, to kind of build out a smart template that's actually aware of where things should be placed, and will let you know if you are breaking sort of your own rules that you've created. Like I said, we could build more complex logic to check multiple points. We could potentially look at doing things like, should these things be allowed to be connected with lines? Maybe routers can't connect directly to servers, or maybe a firewall type can't connect directly to a server. It needs to go through a router. So we could build out all kinds of interesting logic here that might add additional layers to how we are working together and how we're building out these diagrams.